We're taking a closer look at the robot revolution unfolding across the country. A new article on Axios highlights how booming technology is changing our daily lives. There's a big focus on how automation and artificial intelligence will impact jobs in our country and if society is prepared to handle a tech-related economic crisis. Axios future editor Steve Lavine helped write the article. He's with us now from Washington. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So take us through the highlights of your reporting, the good, the bad, that comes with this robot revolution.
Well, the biggest takeaway is that the future's now. So most of the forecasts that we see talk about something that's going to happen in 2030 or 2040 or beyond that. But when we look at ultra-flat wages, people being thrown out of the middle class and into jobs in warehouses and the devastation of towns across the country, one of the major drivers of those dynamics is automation. That's robots. Another highlight is automation anxiety. People are hearing about this all of the time about what's going to happen, and it's turning into a malaise. People are really worried about what's coming in the future. And then a third thing is that how are we going to create when new jobs, when old jobs are destroyed, and there's a long period, it could take decades, by the way, this transition. In that transition, what are we doing to get prepared for that? Those are the downsides. Those are some of the highlights. But on the upside, people should look for much more reliable healthcare. One of the things that's going to happen is that the concern when you go under the knife, when you're going into surgery, it actually will be a good thing that the surgeon will be a robot. The surgeon will be much more precise, fewer mistakes. Things like fatigue won't enter in, and what you're going to see is that people are not going to want human surgeons. They're going to insist on robot surgeons.
So, you know, it's interesting because you point out sort of the good and the bad, right? And I'll paraphrase Simpsons newscaster Kent Brockman, where he says, "I welcome our new robot overlords." But I think that a lot of people think about robots and they think about some of the images that we've been showing, which is like sort of humanoid robots, if you will. But I'm really interested in, for example, jobs that could be lost, for example, at a supermarket or through the retail side of things, and all those hundreds and thousands of retail jobs that exist that could ultimately be done through automation.
Well, that's right. So one thing to know is that experts on this are spitballing, but looking at what automation could do, the forecasts are that millions of jobs across sectors, including the ones you named, including manual laborers, but also people using their cognitive abilities will be out of work. And low-hanging fruit, people who work in call centers, and one of the first people to go will be drivers. Taxi drivers, truck drivers. These are because we're already seeing big car companies, the big truck companies, Tesla, Daimler, producing these kinds of cars, these kinds of trucks. There are 7.5 million Americans who rely on driving for their livelihood. And remember one other thing, driving, this has been the traditional route for poor people, for immigrants to make their way into the middle class. And suddenly, in the very near future, you're going to see those jobs wiped out.
So in your article, Steve, you write about an economic tsunami. Those are your words, from automation, and a jobs apocalypse from the robots. I wonder, if, in a way, are we as a country prepared the way we were perhaps during the Industrial Revolution, when, you know, if you were a horse and buggy driver, you obviously had to make way for the Model T. And if, you know, I mean, if you were any kind of technology that didn't exist before all of a sudden the Industrial Revolution basically upended the entire planet, we as a civilization in this country and other countries, we adapted. Are Americans, is the United States prepared to move people away from those jobs, manual labor and working in grocery stores and driving trucks, and allowing automation to take over, thus allowing people to find jobs in other industries and perhaps even moving up the economic ladder because of the rise of automation?
We're not prepared at all.
Wow.
So what you have are a lot of people discussing this, mostly from industry, from think tanks. Where you don't see this discussed is in Washington. You see companies complaining as one big voice across sectors, and scores of companies complaining that they can't find enough skilled labor when they replace these jobs with robots. What are they going to do? What new jobs are coming? How are they going to fill those jobs? They are not prepared to train new workers, and as a country, we have not even started talking about how do we retrain our workforce. And I do want to underscore that the revolutions that have happened in the past, the 19th century revolutions, technology revolutions, and the move from horse and buggies to cars, these transitions lasted years and decades, half of a century in the case of the 19th century. And so the disruption that we have to be ready for is going to last a long time. Politically, this could get very, very ugly. The driver of politics in the United States the last 2 years has been unhappiness with jobs, with income, what's happened with their towns and their future. This is that, but much worse.
Steve Lavine, great reporting. Thank you so much for spending some time to take us through it. We appreciate it.
Thank you.